Hi folks, welcome back to the Horde. I just wanted to share a little surprise I ran into on this Coolster quad. You guys remember this thing? It's the junkyard dog. There's other videos on it, so if you guys want to go out and watch them, just Google Coolster or Google my channel for Coolster, and you'll find those videos and you guys could watch them. If you guys remember the last time we rode this thing, it was acting up at the end of the ride, especially after I wound it up through the gears a couple of times, because it was still acting like there was water in the gas. So what I did is I drained the carburetor again. And I think you guys could see it, like there's a border like there, and then around the bottom, where you could see I got more water out of it. Also quite a bit of dirt, so that's a good thing. But I'm tired of fooling around with this, and I figured I'd crack the carburetor open and take a look at it. By the way, to get the carburetor off, the air filter slipped right off. And it kind of surprised me that it didn't have any kind of hose clip or pressure, anything to hold it on there. But the air filter slipped right off. Gas line, squeeze the thing, slip that right off. The top, you just unscrew it and take it off. Just make sure when you put the slide in that the slide sinks all the way down. Because if it doesn't, when you start it up, it's going to start off racing like your throttle's pinned, so you're going to make sure that when you put this back on, the throttle slides all the way back in. And then once again, 2 bolts in the front, and it comes right off. Piece of cake, right? So that was no problem. Then I went to take the bowl off. You guys see the problem? They put the bowl on permanently. It was like, you don't want to share profanities with the world. Now, whenever you run into something like this, you could go extreme, or you could say, I'll give this one more try, more or less like it is, or then I'll just order a $20 carburetor. It depends. For you guys working in a shop, if you run across something like this, now you got time versus a $20 carburetor. Depends how much money you make. I mean, the repair is fairly simple. I mean, you prop it up in a drill press, you drill those out, you tap them, you put screws in, and then you're into the carburetor. But I'm thinking, by the time you set up your drill press, mount this in something, get out your drill bits, drill them out, tap them out, find the right screws to go in there, and everything else. I'd venture to say you probably put an hour into this thing. A new carburetor is $20. So, and by the way, you got to rebuild the carburetor, and then you got to back up the carburetor, right? Because you can't just say, oh, I rebuilt your carburetor and I put an hour worth of drilling and tapping and other trivia into it, and by the way, you still have the same problem. I drained most of the gas out of the gas tank, and once again, I think you guys could see that. I mean, I think you can see the boundary, the water line in there. I'm going to give this. I also put some stable and some drying agent in there. Dry gas, I guess it's called. Heat. I guess I put the heat version in there. So hopefully, having drained it out a couple of times, that this will fix it. I also gave it a real cheap rebuild, and by cheap rebuild, I took my air gun and I blew in that hole. See that center one looking at you? If you look down from the top, you got one in the center, and I don't know if you can kind of, as I poke my finger into the carburetor, you kind of see that one up at 12 o'clock position. I blew into that. I used the air gun to blow into the gas receiver. I took the plug out the bottom, so whenever you blew into any of those holes, stuff jetted out of there. I put carburetor through all those holes. So I'm hoping this half-ass rebuild brought this carburetor back to life. If not pesty. So here we have, by the way, this was a $50 junkyard junkyard dog quad, right? $50, only $50, right? And it started to run fairly easily. I dug up front shocks from the Horde because I wasn't having much luck finding the right length of shock on eBay or anything. But even with that, they wanted more than $50 for the shocks. If you're now looking at $20 for the carburetor, right? Once again, I'm going to go try to get around it, you know, and the key switch is another $10. You can very quickly find yourself, if you're trying to buy these things at the junkyard and say, oh, I'll go buy one for $50, I'll fix it up, I'll have 100 involved in it, and then I'm going to sell it and make some money. You know what? You probably will not. Because even after this thing's all fixed, you know, you can see that this front wheel is cattywampus and doesn't feel very good. For me to kind of run it around the property and, you know, just beat on it a little bit, use it to go get mail, it's a wonderful item, especially if I'm not paying for any of these things. I'm basically putting used parts in it. But for somebody who's enterprising, good luck putting one of these together and making any money on it. Excuse me, I mean, I own it, this is mine, but they're junk. They really are junk. Unfortunately, the thing is almost worth, I mean, look how much I'm moving this tire, and look how much this tire is not moving. They're junk. They're just, they're junk. And by the way, Coolster is one of the better ones, right? I think they're not one of the real bottom ones. I think Coolster is up a level or two from that. All right, folks, I want to thank you all. About the carburetor surprise, they're out there. Good luck when you find them. Folks, I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and please, please get out there and enjoy all your days. Bye now, folks.